It's Tim Albright with AVNation at CEDIA 2017 in the Just Add Power booth with the guy that has the best name in the world, Taft Strickland.
How are you, Tim?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Doing good, yeah.
Good show so far?
It's been a great show. The weather in San Diego has been fantastic.
Oh, yeah, it is.
It's been a little brutal on my hair, but it's been fantastic. So
probably the only time I've heard that this week, also, just for the record. You guys do video over the network, right?
Yes.
That's the whole Just Add Power is you're
Yes.
taking, well, what started out as 1080p video and sending it over the network. Now you're doing 4K.
Yep.
You added HDR in there.
Yep. So
what else can't you do?
we're now 10 years in doing HDMI over IP. A little over 3 years doing 4K, doing HDMI 2.0 and HDCP 2.2. When we originally launched our 4K product, we gave you the capability to take 4K, HDMI 2.0 and downscale it to HDMI 1.4 1080p. So you can mix and match screens.
So real quickly, why is it important to take, not obviously the 4K I get, so you take 4K content and you only have 1080p displays, that one I get, but why is it important to take the HDMI 2.0 and downgrade it?
Well, you've got to do it in a way so that it's legal.
Okay.
So HDMI 2.0 and your 4K devices don't have the capability of just outputting 1080p. And if you do have something you can set to 1080p, then you're dumbing it down, so now your 1080p screens get 1080p and your 4K screens get 1080p. It's kind of like buying a super fast car and only driving 20 miles an hour, right?
Yeah.
So you got to get your value for what you're doing. So we initially launched and we could take 4K and scale it to 1080 so you can mix and match displays. Since we believe in making our product better and adding features, some of the features we've added over the last year has been seamless HDR. So what I can do is I can have any mix of 4K screens without HDR, 4K screens with HDR, 4K screens with HDR10, and 1080p screens. And what our product does is it allows you to take that 4K with HDR and meet the format requirement for all of your different modeled HDR and HDR10 screens, while it simultaneously gives a standard 4K to your standard 4K screens and 1080p to 1080. At its core, what it means is your customer has a system that works the way that they dreamed it would work, but nobody else has figured out yet. So you get the best picture you can possibly get on every screen, and those 1080p screens that you bought a few years ago still work flawlessly and look amazing.
All right, so again, let me kind of rephrase what you said so I make sure I understand it. Is if you've got a projector that wants 4K and it wants HDR, and you have another an older flat panel. All it can do is 1080 without HDR.
Yeah.
Your one source can do both.
We can do both. We're smart enough to process it and do both.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's very cool. And that was a firmware update as well. So.
Okay, so firmware update meaning, and you and I have talked about this before, how your philosophy is, if you buy a piece of equipment from us, we're going to give you a firmware update throughout the life cycle of that product.
Correct. We build product to last for decades, as versus building product to last until the next big trade show where we tell you, to get rid of it. So, we added another feature this year called Plug Play Present, which allows you to plug into a transmitter, and that transmitter then will tell your displays to turn on, to switch inputs. It can send IP, serial, IR, and CEC commands.
Nice.
It'll control IP controllable TVs. The idea is to allow the integrator to give the customer something as simple as plug this in and this happens. And when you disconnect the video, it can shut things off. That firmware update actually goes on to all of our 4K and all of our legacy 1080p products. So it even works on things that you bought 10 years ago.
See, that's cool. That's
very cool.
The firmware updates, both, are they available now?
They are available now, yes.
All right, very good.
And if you just run a quick update with our software, then it takes a couple of minutes and you're up and running with the newest firmware.
Okay.
So,
if somebody wants to get a hold of you or find out how to get your products, how do they do that?
They do it at justaddpower.com.
Justaddpower.com. Taft Strickland from Just Add Power. My name is Tim Albright. For more information about us, you can find us at avnation.tv.
Thank you.